So for the last while, we've heard a lot of talk about the vinyl bubble and people saying that records are worth more now than they're ever going to be worth, and that maybe it's time that you should start thinking about moving some of them. And to that I kind of say, like, okay, like I do get the idea of like they're really valuable, but things like first pressing them to a classic Blue Note album or like a Beatles Butcher cover, those are always going to have value. It may not be as much, it may fluctuate over the years depending on the interest in vinyl, but those are generally always going to be fairly valuable. I think that there has been kind of this huge misunderstanding about why so many albums have just suddenly shot up in value, and it really comes down to a lot of these albums that have gone through this cycle of they press a bunch of them, they sell out, a bunch of new people get into vinyl looking for those albums, they're out of print, so the price skyrockets and people will pay that amount, and then 6 months later, a year later, 2 years later, the album gets a repress and it drops in value. And this has really hit me hard. A while back I put out a couple videos about buying records on Amazon Warehouse, and they did really well and they were a lot of fun to do. So I put out this video where I talked about my 5 biggest scores I'd got on Amazon Warehouse, and I'm shocked no one has made fun of me for this yet, but within like a couple of weeks of posting that video, my 2 most valuable records like plummeted in value, and one of them was a Mobile Fidelity title, which, I mean, if you don't know why the Mobile Fidelity titles have gone down in price, I welcome you to go on YouTube and search Mobile Fidelity controversy. You'll find a lot of people explain a lot better than I could, but yeah, that was a record that for me was worth about $200, and then it was suddenly the median price on Discogs had dropped to $150, but my most valuable record was this was the Smashing Pumpkins Melancholy and Infinite Sadness box set, which I was seeing it was going for like $400. These are Canadian dollars, of course, but $400 on Discogs, and then out of nowhere, like a month later, I see in all these groups that, oh, this website has a repress of Melancholy and Infinite Sadness up, and it was suddenly the record dropped, and now you could get it for $150. And looking back now on Discogs, it still sells for about $250, but it lost $150 of value like pretty much overnight just because it got a repress. And I don't know, I thought I'd read on a forum or something, someone said, oh, the tape was destroyed or the plates were destroyed, this is never getting a repress, which, you know, don't believe everything you read on record forums, but I was like, holy crap. And then I started to kind of think, you know, is this the time when I should start moving a lot of my valuable records? Because there's so many titles that have exploded in value that it could be any day now that they get a repress. And this just happened to me. It's the self-titled Queens of the Stone Age album. Awesome rock and roll record. And also from a band that sells a lot of records, you look at any of the bigger rock artists, Foo Fighters, Jack White, Greta Van Fleet, all of their albums sell really well on vinyl. It's an audience that really is passionate and is willing to buy their albums. And this is a great one. And it's been out of print since then. They did this, I think, in 2010. So it blew up in value. And it's going for about $150 on Discogs right now. And just randomly a week ago I get an ad, it's like, oh, Queens of the Stone Age self-titled album's getting a repress with the original cover. So I'm like, holy crap, like this is gonna plummet in value. I mean, I don't think there's anything that makes this version any better sounding or anything. I mean, I'm sure that we'll find out, like maybe this is a preferred version or something, but it's gonna take a hit because now I can go onto any website, any record store, and I can get a copy of this for $35 or $40. Like, that's a huge drop, and that was completely unexpected. And I mean, it's only a matter of time before so many of these other albums that you have that are valuable, that are recent albums, they don't make sense why they're out of print, or maybe there's something we're missing, but it's only a matter of time before they just drop. Another album I've actually never purchased on vinyl, and apparently it was a win on my part, was the first Death from Above album, You're a Woman, I'm a Machine, one of my favorite records. You used to be able to get it for $30 everywhere. Every store had it, especially in Canada. And then suddenly it went out of print and I didn't even realize it. And I started seeing them go for $100, $150, $175 even, just for the standard black vinyl. There's a number of variants that are kind of cooler, but recently a record store that I frequent, they put a copy on their online store for $100. And an hour later I went back and it was gone. And a couple days ago I see, oh, it's been repressed, it's back in stock, and you can get it for $25. So that was a big save on my part, because I did think about paying up for it a couple of times, but yeah, now I can just order the repress 25 bucks, saved all that money. This was a funny one because I don't own a ton of hip hop records, but I recently bought a collection that included a record player. I'll probably make a video about that soon, but I saw this record. It's J. Cole's 2014 Forest Hills Drive. I know it's a super popular album. He's very, very popular. A lot of people, particularly younger people who are really passionate about hip hop music, have been getting turntables and buying a lot of hip hop records, and suddenly, you know, things like Kanye West records that used to be everywhere are really valuable now. But I remember seeing this everywhere and it was like $29.99. So just out of curiosity, I was going through the records I bought in the collection and I searched this one up and I found out that Discogs, it was consistently selling for $100, and this makes no sense why this is out of print. They got to be loading up, pressing a ton of these things. I would fully expect within the next year this is available again for $30, so I gotta move on this and cash out while I can. Another one that I got quite a few years ago, I got this as new old stock, Paul McCartney's Kisses on the bottom. Complete audiophile record, pressed at RTI, cut by Doug Sachs, recorded really well. It's Paul McCartney doing like jazz standards. It was on Michael Fremer's Top 100 All Analog Imprint Records. I went to a record store in Chicago and I found this as new old stock for 30 bucks. I knew that it was already fairly valuable, but I've seen this thing selling for $150, $200. Discogs median is 138 right now. With the quantity of Paul McCartney stuff we've been seeing that's been repressed, apparently it's always just McCartney 3 and these box sets and all this stuff that nobody's asking for, but this is an audiophile album and word's gotten out and it's worth a lot of money now. And if Paul McCartney has the publishing rights for this, I would fully expect something to be coming out. It's the 10-year anniversary. Maybe there's a 10-year anniversary planned. A lot of like anniversary editions have been pushed back due to COVID and different logistical challenges, but yeah, this should be a $40 record and it's worth a lot more right now, so maybe I should get rid of it. I don't grab for that this often because usually when I want to listen to audiophile jazz, I don't go for Paul McCartney singing jazz. Another similar one, Opeth Heritage. If you're into 70s, prog rock, Genesis, King Crimson, Gentle Giant, this is fantastic. This is their first album where they did no growly vocals and it was just clean vocals. Awesome rock and roll album, and I always wanted this. This album means a lot to me. This was released my first semester of university. I got to see them 3 times on that tour. Love this album. It's also albums that are modern but have a retro vibe always sound better on vinyl, so I always wanted it. Apparently a lot of other people that do. Opeth fans are pretty rabid, and this one median is $133 on Discogs, but Opeth's catalog has slowly been reissued with these limited editions for different record store days, and record labels aren't stupid. If people want something, they're gonna press it unless there's a reason they can't, whether it's they can't get the publishing rights, they can't get the tapes, whatever it is. But I fully expect this one to be out again, and I'm like, do I just sell this, wait for it to be repressed, take all that extra money, buy other records, and then I can buy it for 30 bucks again, you know? I do have to share one record that I have that's valuable, that did survive a repress and is somehow still valuable, which I was very shocked by, but this is Mars Volta's Nocturnicate. This was their last album. If you know much about the Mars Volta, they released all of their albums between 2003 and 2012 before breaking up. So basically everything was put out when vinyl was dead or in the very early stages of the vinyl revival. But all of their albums were released on vinyl in very limited editions. I think they had one music on vinyl version of one of their albums or 2 of their albums. But if you wanted Mars Volta albums, they're $300, $400, $500 just to get even standard versions. I stumbled across this at a record store where they clearly didn't know what it was. They put 30 bucks on it. I knew it was worth over 100. Mars Volta reissued all of their albums in this gigantic box set that was like $500 a year ago, and then they've slowly been trickling out these individual album reissues. And I've seen this at a bunch of record stores, and my stomach dropped. I'm like, oh great, you know, my retirement plan's gone, whatever. But no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so I kind of pulled up my phone onto Discogs expecting it to be worthless, and I found it's still well over $100. I think there's a few reasons for that. One is that the reissue is fairly expensive. I think the store I saw it at was asking like $55 for it. It is also the original pressing. People oftentimes prioritize getting original pressings versus repressings. I don't know much about the sound quality of this versus those, but it is unique though. It is on a blue and orange vinyl, where the represses, there are a couple of different editions, but they're not the same ones. So this one was somehow managed to keep some of its value, and I guess maybe variant records, especially variant records that were done in limited quantities, are a little bit more likely to keep their value. So very happy that I still have this in my collection and I didn't get rid of it, but maybe the time will come to get rid of it soon. So that's it. Those are my records that some of them I'm going to be trying to move. Some of them I wait a little too long to move on. But yeah, what do you think? I mean, what do you think about the price of modern vinyl? Like, it's a little silly to think that, you know, if you've been around the hobby for even 5 years, these records that were everywhere, you know, $200. It's crazy. So, I mean, what are some records that you have that have exploded in value that are very shocking? Because, I mean, I have a ton. These are just a few that I pulled, and yeah, very, very bizarre times. But yeah, I think I'm going to start selling a bunch of my records and just waiting for the represses. Because, you know, if you're only listening to it once a year, like, why hold on to it? Just wait for it to come out again and save your money. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. Take care.